This is a full driving review of the current or updated Honda Civik. It's a facelift now for the European market, and we will begin with the price today because for around 40,000 euros on the European market, or even just 30,000 US dollars on the Northern American market, you get almost a fully spec'd vehicle. But the question is, what exactly do you get for that price in exterior, interior and driving? We're going to find out with Thomas Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the update in the front. There's here like a new white insert, in this case there, or body color insert for other colors. Before, this area, rather was almost like one area, so to speak. Now they differentiated it a little bit. By the way, I have it in the hybrid mode so that the 12-volt battery doesn't die on me. So sometimes the engine then goes on and sometimes is off again. I think a very cool look in the front, both pre and past facelift. What do you think about that? Length here, this is the Civik hatchback. It's 4 meters 56 or 179 inches. There is also the Civik sedan, which is a little bit longer, but the European market does focus on most markets here on the hatchback. Very sleek design still on the side profile. Then here black and white contrast. Platinum white is this color. It's an extra color actually. 17 or in this case 18-inch wheels, because this is the sport trim, so-called Civik sport trim. And then we can see that the hatchback still has somewhat a sedan styling, a little bit higher than here of course, but although it doesn't have like a cut-off hatchback style, it still has this fastback opening, soon more to the trunk flexibility and so on. Here it says HEV, this their hybrid system. There are also non-hybrid cars for the Northern American market. Engine specs is in the video description or in the pinned comment. But the European market, and also available on the American market, is here this HEV system, a 2-liter hybrid 4-cylinder, 184 horsepower in the EU, 200 horsepower Northern American market. And this one goes in about 8 seconds to 1 kilometers, and it takes about 8 seconds until I open the hood. There we go. And you see here the high voltage cables in orange. And actually the acceleration figure depends on the individual trim as well. That's a very interesting thing. And that's also interesting thing that it's, yeah, okay. So there we go. It goes on again. So from time to time, if you are in the, in this high voltage mode already. Interesting system because it has basically 3 different ways of operation. So there's one way of operation that it directly, the combustion engine powers the wheels when you are constant on the motorway, 100 kilometers an hour, 120 kilometers an hour, 60, 70 miles per hour. Then there's a mode where you drive only pure electric. This engine here is off. That might happen when you are driving slowly, when there's enough battery, buffer, maneuvering, parking and so on. And then there's the mode when you go full throttle, then it does accelerate all electric, but at the same time the combustion engine is running as a generator. So you have the power of both systems, and it can vary from time to time depending on the situation. That's their thought behind it. Very interesting concept, and front wheel drive only always. Getting towards the interior, Honda key fob does the job. Actually pretty small, but then fits the pocket very well. Then here the door closing sounds. Solid in the front, not that solid in the rear, and also here, it's also a difference. Interesting, right? So at the rear door, some cost savings, definitely, but I mean, there will be more use of the front door, that's clear, yeah? Then inside of the doors here, there is also soft touch here with some like a structure as well. Then with black insert, yeah, that's maybe not my favorite one. Fabric insert, then there's a high grade at the red. It's soft enough for your elbow, that's cool. Simple, straightforward design here of window controls and side mirror controls. No covering at the inside here. And then I really like this mesh design on the air vents. That looks always sporty here with the honeycomb design. Steering wheel, but pretty cool, straightforward. Simple button for a heated steering wheel. Simple jog here for the volume. Oh, and also with clicking sounds. Right side for the cruise control. Straightforward user interface. I love that. In the sport trim here, fabric on the inside, leatherette on the outside. That also looks good, and this is also more breathable in summertime than the higher trim, which would also contain the animal skin. And then here Sitting down, 1.89 meters, 6'2". There's still some headroom left here. Steering wheel manual, up and down, in and out, and it's actually a cozy seat. I also just talked to Leah about it. She also said that the seats are pretty comfortable, and even as a tall driver, you feel quite comfortable. Yeah, also for the knee here on the right side, it's actually still okay. Left side for the foot is also okay. Sometimes I don't have enough space for my feet. I mean, I have long feet, but yeah. Here it's actually quite fine. So there's already good offering space in the front here. Now to the front cockpit experience here. Let's take a look. This is a soft touch dashboard, also with the structure. Then here this grid is all the way through from left to the right. Looks quite cool and sporty. And I love here the clicking sounds for the climate unit, also for the fan speed. This is prime time Audi, and recently we talked about that Audi will move back to that. I have been pushing Audi more and more for that, and you have as well. And I got the feedback to Audi that Audi wants to return to these pretty cool climate knobs and fan speed. And I hope it really becomes reality. We'll keep you updated on that. The screen here is, for today's car, not too large, but some also like it a little bit more subtle. You get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and you also have a menu control of the volume here, for example. What you can do in the car internal menu is, for example, look at the energy flow, like what is being done with the hybrid. This, of course, just by being stationary here, the consumption. And then here, glove box also folds down smoothly. Yeah, some stuff is flying around from this driving event. Sorry about that. This is Autogefühl live on tape. There we go. Then we have also shifting pedals behind the steering wheel. While driving, we'll explain you more about that. Digital instruments, they come also in the sport maneuver. There would be like a level below that, but then by mid-trim you also get these fully digital instruments. Middle console, 2 USB-C chargers, 12-volt power supply. Inductive charging pad is not ventilated, so it might overheat there actually. Cup holders are also adaptive. They're not too deep, more maybe like for the coffee fraction, so to speak. Then here is always interesting this, they use the P, R, and the separate buttons for putting in the gears. And drive mode selector is here. In this case, normal, sport, individual, or econ, like economy. More does like the throttle response and so on. And then here, also really soft for your elbow. I love that when they have like a really soft surface here for your elbow, left and right. That's pretty cool. The only thing like quality wise, which is not like superb, is when you use the windows, they're like, poof, you know, some other premium cars, they have like, it goes smoother when you put up or down the windows. And also sometimes you see like that the whole area here is moving, you know, when the windows are opening or closing. Even the door itself moves when you put the window up or down. Do you see it on camera? It's very interesting. And also here, for example, this whole middle console can be shaken quite a lot here, for example, there. So this could be better in the build quality, but then again, you have to think about, I mean, especially in the US, $30,000 for this vehicle. That's like amazing price performance. And then you can also excuse stuff like this in European market, 40,000 euros. A lot of space here underneath. So overall, I really have to say, yeah, some things you can criticize. For example, also, let's say like the initial smell from the new car in this vehicle is also not that pleasant. That's also something I noticed. But so many other elements are really driver focused, easy to use, straightforward, not complicated. You do not have to learn the car. And that's why I really love this approach. Now to the rear, doors here, hardback on top part, but at least the visual structure. This is nicely done here, the handle, and also no covering at the inside of the door. But this one here is soft, you know, with a soft leather red for the rear elbow, so to speak. And in the sport trim, once again, fabric inside, leather red on the outside, ISOFIX on the outsides each. This here just drops down like this. It's not too bad though. The cup holders are different sizes, but they are not adaptive. And then 2 USB-C chargers in the lower part. And very important is that you have a lot of legroom here, even if tall drivers are in the front. That's cool. Headroom is not too spacious, but it's still okay with 189, 6'2". And when you sit down here, you always have the feeling that you get in the next Uber. Yeah, because this car is often used by Uber drivers. Also one of the most sold cars in the States, for example. Very interesting because it has like a lot of space. It's not too expensive. And then also like the efficient engine, especially when you go here for the hybrid drivetrain. And in Europe, by the way, the Corolla Cross Estate, especially in Germany recently, this has gone through the roof for taxi and Uber use. But in the North American market, I usually see like the Civics driving around as the Uber cars. Or if you have any experience with that, happy to share your experience, then I read it in the comments. Now to the trunk or the boot, which has here the practical hatch function, so you can load in and out like an estate. 410 liters, a little bit less if you have the highest trim level because of the subwoofer, I would say. This is interesting here. This side roller. So it is really unique. There's no other car with that, or no other brand with that. Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting, and it's stored here, and you can have the direct access here. And then 1.40 meters in width here between the wheel arches. The length is about 90 centimeters, 36 inches, and shall we measure the height here? Probably, right? So the highest height is about a little bit more than 29 inches or 75 centimeters. That's cool. Here underneath, just some space like for the emergency equipment, but this looks like it could fit a replacement tire maybe in another version or so. And then here, let's take a look. Here we can reach over then like this and this. And then we have the total length of the trunk area of 1.75 meters or 68 inches. Let's start with some acceleration. And now some driving city and German Autobahn with the updated Honda Civik. And we'll also talk about the HEV system. So you have this visualization there in the infotainment system where you can see what is going on. Yeah. Usually in your everyday driving life, you probably will not do that, but we can do it for now. For example, then we can see that at the moment, this first is recuperation. Now again, there's power to the wheels, but in this case, combustion engine is actually, now it's on actually. So it really depends, So it's going back and forth. There you can see when this is going or not. So the vehicle is constantly changing what it does. Now the combustion engine is off again, for example, getting back energy to the battery. And at the end of the drive, we'll also keep you updated with an average consumption of a typical driving cycle, for example. Yeah, but you just let the vehicle do its thing, basically. And when you're slightly on the throttle, you hardly notice these differences. Also, in normal everyday driving life, the steering is really likable. Very natural steering feeling to it. Yeah, what's really annoying me sometimes is that it's kind of hard at the middle console for your right leg. That's maybe something, but you have a good feeling for the vehicle. It feels like one with the driver. You are really connected to the road as well. You can also go to Apple CarPlay once again. Here is the CarPlay integration, for example, with Google Maps here at the moment. Android Auto would look similar, using all the way off the screen as well. And now we can go here on this countryside road doing like 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. We try to go fast on the motorway very soon, but yeah, rolling and wind noise, I would say at this moment it's not too loud, but you feel it's not the most silent vehicle. Or what do you say, Leah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she says.
But it's fine.
It's fine, it's fine, yeah. But at least at these speeds here so far. But what I really like is that it has this typical like sedan driving feeling, that also counts for the hatch here. And I think that will also be good for passengers, So I like SUVs because of the seating position. Then again, in driving, sometimes the low seating cars are just a little bit more fun still. And here, which is also very interesting, when I'm going here, like you're on the brake, then you're suddenly on the throttle again, going out of this roundabout. You immediately have this EV push, and so it's a very instant reaction also. But this whole system, that you don't feel that the engine would be like, I always say like the engine feels like annoyed or too stressed. you don't feel it when you are in normal driving. You don't push the vehicle, you know. That's what the hybrid system is also designed for, that you really gently with the throttle, you swim in the traffic, so to speak, and that's also fine, and it's not too loud, and it's constantly then changing, and then the engine is also so silent that sometimes I have to check the system myself to really decide, is it actually on at the moment or not? So that's very interesting. There are, want to talk about the shifting pedals here, because by that you can actually control the deceleration here when you get off the accelerator pedal. So this is something you can control with that. It's not then for shifting in this case. This will come with the Honda Prelude, where we also just recently shown you like a first preview with exterior, interior. But here it's really about the deceleration when you go off throttle. And yeah, since this is the hybrid here, also uses this regenerative braking. Here it also signals you EV mode in digital instruments, then you also know when you're driving all electric. And when you are rather gently on the throttle and driving in the city traffic here, it's quite often that you're just in the electric mode. And then it's also really silent. Here's a nice tarmac, for example, on that road here. And then when I'm in electric mode, then it's also very pleasant, calm experience, like almost you would be driving an electric vehicle. Shortly here when I'm acceleration and the engine goes on, but you hardly hear it. So overall, this vehicle has a smooth and very, let's say, neutral driving feel, but neutral in a positive way, So it doesn't do anything you would not expect. And that's the same thing that repeats the scheme. That was a nice Enduro with the user interface. This car is a non-BS car. I always describe it that way. It just does what it's supposed to do, and it doesn't do anything unexpected, and you know what you get. That's actually what I like about this car also here in driving. And now it's time to drive on the German Autobahn, or motorway for you. Always nice to get on and off, because then there's also the nice sporty corner to take as well. So there we go. Also want to try to drive a little bit faster. You can see more about how it behaves really at higher speeds. So let's see about that. Left side is free. Yeah, of course, when I really push it, then engine is more noisy. And here, yeah, 130 kilometers an hour, like 70, 75 miles an hour. It also gets a little bit louder as for the wind noise. It's quite loud, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite loud. So that's one thing that you don't get for this price-performance ratio. You don't get silent car at higher speeds. For many, many markets where this car is sold in high numbers, it's maybe not that relevant, because usually people don't drive as fast as in Germany. But here, 140, 150 kilometers an hour, it's quite noisy. But that's maybe a German problem, or what do you think? However, suspension-wise, really calm here also at higher speeds, and the control here over the steering. The vehicle feels really settled on the road, even at higher speeds. That's what I really appreciate. So and here about 100, 120, it's also okay from the wind noise, but it gives you a very calm feeling. So here also, when we do some left and right here, lane changes and so on, it feels sporty, it's collected. Once again, that gives you a very, very good controlled feeling over the vehicle. Let's also see what the vehicle does here. So at this moment, for example, combustion engine is on. It's going directly to the wheels, and it is also powering the battery. So now it's on, and it's not powering the battery. So it depends on the situation, So once again, and now it's powering the battery again. So it's doing different things all the time. There you can see this small symbol there. And now when I'm off the throttle, combustion engine is off again. Recuperation from the wheels into the battery. Yeah, just to give you one more example of the different situations here. Blind spot monitor is also there, flashing then in the side mirror. And assistant systems, you can set them here. Nice clicking sounds, and you can increase speed right here and so on. There's also an active lane keeping assist. I can activate or deactivate it right here. Let's see, going in the middle here. So now it should, yeah, now green lines. And now it's also actively keeping me in the lane. And so far so good. The motorway will soon make a small left bend there. Let's see how it does there. Or if it's maybe like overcorrecting. I should of course keep my hands at the steering wheel. And now, yeah, not too many nervous overcorrections. So far fine. Once again, calm and collected. Here also now in this slight right bend. Yeah, you hardly feel it's moving or changing. It's very nice actually. So also in all the driving behaviors, really very solid. And fuel economy around even a little bit under 5 liters on 1 kilometers for our test route here today. That's 47 mpg US, 56 mpg UK, so pretty good and efficient result. And the pricing, as I initially said, very rarely does the manufacturer lower the price. That's what happened here, especially in Europe. 38,000 euros entry price, 39 for the sport trim. Maybe you add some paint or 1 or 2 extras and you are at around 40,000 euros, and that's it basically. That's quite astonishing and really accounts for this price-performance ratio. And in the North American market, I mean, the hybrid here starts at 38,000 US dollars. The non-hybrid's even a little bit lower. That's astonishing. Maybe the sedan looks a little bit sleeker on the rear than the hatchback version we have here. When you are in a market where you can also select a sedan, this one again is more practical to load in and out and so on. It does have reasonable space on the interior and also nice with, you know, the turning wheels on the interior. There are some things that I showed you on the interior aspects that were not that great in the build quality. That's where it shows that it doesn't have the highest price. The engine can also be quite efficient. Yeah, it's not the most sporty engine, but chassis-wise, steering and so on, it is a lot of fun to steer this car around. That's also a cool aspect. So it's overall still a good package, and no wonder that this is still one of the most sold cars worldwide. Interesting, isn't it? And in the US market, for example, you even pay less, around 30,000 US dollars. Yeah, then you can ask, like, what can you do wrong with that one, right? What do you think about that? And now tune into more Honda reviews.